Priya Sachdeva, let's see if she'll speak to Republic. Thank you, Mandira, Advaita, and Ms. Napanai for joining us. And ladies and gentlemen, as we watch that, days after declaring India a dead economy, directly attacking India, going as far as to say US has lost India, Trump took a near complete U-turn yesterday. Can he be trusted? This is what happened.
They called us names and attempted to browbeat us.
It's a refining profiteering scheme. It's a laundromat for the Kremlin. 25% because they cheat us on trade, 25% because of the Russian oil.
But India's response was measured and firm.
भारत अपने किसानों के, पशुपालकों के और मछुआरे भाई बहनों के हितों के साथ कभी भी समझौता नहीं करेगा। और मैं जानता हूं व्यक्तिगत रूप से मुझे बहुत बड़ी कीमत चुकानी पड़ेगी, लेकिन मैं इसके लिए तैयार हूं।
In just over a month, the tone and tenor of President Trump's message towards India has changed.
I'll always be friends with Modi. He's great Prime Minister. India and the United States have a special relationship. There's nothing to worry about.
Once again, India's response has been poised, firm, and resolute. While Trump has been uncertain and changing his stance,
They don't do very much business in terms of business with us. They sell a lot to us, but we don't buy from them. You know why? Because the tariff is so high. They have one of the highest tariffs in the world. India charges us massive tariffs, massive. You can't even sell anything into India. It's almost restrictive. It is restrictive. You know, we do very little business inside. 250% tariff, which is taking advantage of our farmers. So that's not going to happen anymore. I'll always be friends with Modi. He's great Prime Minister. He's great. I'll always be friends.
India has been consistent and clear.
Prime Minister Modi obviously attaches enormous importance to our partnership with the United States. And where President Trump is concerned, he's always had a very good personal equation with President Trump. But the point is, look, we are engaged, we remain engaged with the United States.
We are negotiating in good faith. There will be occasional disturbances as we go along. But I can assure you, the US and India are friends. They are strategic partners. We will meet the long-term aspirations of the people of the US and India through a fair, equitable and balanced free trade agreement.
With trade talks back, can we say world's largest democracy and fourth largest economy has successfully fact-checked Trump on his dead economy delusions about India?
Let's get three sides of the story. First with Charles Kupchan, who's professor at Georgetown in DC. Saurabh Shukla, chief consulting editor of Republic, and STA Alexander Shajan, who's a grassroots Republican strategist. Dr. Kupchan, what are we to make of this moderation in Trump's tone towards India?
Well, I think what happened is that we are in a world in which the President of the United States expects partners of the United States to do what he says. Right. And you had, in the case of Europeans, a readiness to conclude a trade deal that many Europeans didn't like, but they felt that they should do it in the service of preserving a good relationship. Many European leaders flew over with President Zelensky and said nice things to President Trump in the White House, and so the relationship is fine. Modi stood up to Trump. He stood up to Trump over claims that Trump helped end the short war between India and Pakistan. He stood up to Trump on questions of trade, didn't make the trade deal Trump wanted, and Trump got angry. And then Modi went off to Beijing. And I think in the end of the day, what we're seeing here is that both sides are saying maybe we should let cooler heads prevail. Because India, it doesn't have a national interest in ending up in the same boat as Russia and China. The United States doesn't want to lose India to Russia and China. Both India and the US are better off if they remain on the same team. And so I think what you're seeing is a recalibration, a reconsideration on behalf of President Trump and probably Prime Minister Modi that will try to get back the spirit of cooperation that we saw building before this rift emerged over the last month or so.
But in terms of brass tacks, Saurabh, what will it, I do not see any scope for India relenting on points. All this, the Twitter talk is something else. But we are going to buy Russian oil. We are not going to give in on his demands on GM crops and other aspects of agriculture. So he's not going to get the trade deal he wants. So where's the middle path?
I'll tell you what, Arnab, what has happened behind the scenes is a classic negotiation tactics. What President Trump was trying to do was to put tariffs as a strategic weapon to force India's hand. Obviously, he realized it did not work. All along, what really played in our favor was the personal respect and chemistry he had for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. All the people that I've been talking to in the White House and have been telling me that one thing which stands out today, biggest in India's favor besides our bilateral partnership, is the chemistry that he enjoys. It's a Trump White House which does things very differently. There's a term that is used in the White House called the Trump whisperers. These are the people who influence his policy, who are the people who influence his decision when it comes to key issues. The challenge, what was happening was that India, post a great visit in February, was falling short of some of these Trump whisperers who were putting India's point of view. But he obviously realized that India was not going to allow, despite the friendship that Prime Minister has with President Trump, to allow US to cross the red lines. India also realized during the course of these negotiations, which went back and forth, that there are red lines that the US has. And what has happened now is that they've agreed to disagree on certain issues and come and meet the halfway house. I'm not going to prejudge what are the specifics because these are delicate negotiations still happening. But the biggest takeaway from this is that all the naysayers who were saying that the relationship between the two countries is completely, there is a rift wide open, that's not happening because it's multifaceted. I want to tell you that even when the trade issue was, keeping us at loggerheads, there were strategic talks which were happening. The defense exercises were happening. So there is more to this relationship, and that has come to the fore. And I would say that in the days to come, as I've said earlier in your shows, that we need to change our strategy a bit so that there is more leader-to-leader engagement to make sure that any small differences that we have do not spiral out of control. That's something which is very critical.
But Saurabh, that is not so much on our side. My question to Alexander would be that Mr. Shahjan, Modi did not fold under Trump's pressure at all. He stood his ground, called out his bluff in a way, and now there is this cordial Twitter exchange. But is Trump a predictable person? I mean, he can go around and say something completely different tomorrow. His advisors, Navarro and the others, can use obnoxious language tomorrow morning. I mean, the problem here is that there is no consistency from America's end. I don't know whether a Twitter exchange will really mean anything.
Arnab, I was watching your interview with the Honorable Finance Minister, Ms. Sridhar Ramanji. You asked her a question about the statement from Peter Navarro. And what a great response. I was so fascinated with that response. The way she did not even touch that. I mean, she said there are a lot of negotiations going on.
She said it was insulting to the people of India.
Yes, I'm coming there. She said it was hurtful. She did not use the word insult. She said it was very hurtful. It hurt the people of India. And I agree, it hurt me too. So that does not picturize, that does not take the whole administration. Yes, President Trump has made some statements, and several cabinet members, at least few, made statements that should not have made. But listen to Mr. Piyush Goyal. He said there are a lot of negotiations. So as far as India and US are concerned, the administration is very hopeful. From day one on your show and on the other show in your own channel, I made this statement. There are a lot of negotiations is going on, and it is not time, it's early call to say that the relationship is destroyed. Yes, President Trump did not talk about just India. He is like that. I mean, I'm not going to say if he's predictable or, with every relationship, he is like that. But I have to agree with Saurabh. The one important thing that factored into this issue is President Trump's personal relationship, friendship with Prime Minister Modi. And that is the highlight of yesterday's tweet. He said, Prime Minister Modi is a great friend of mine. And that relationship, it is not just a bilateral diplomatic relationship, it's beyond that. That is why, and I was from day one onwards, again, I said, I was very hopeful, and still I'm hopeful.
No, but that's all good. But the fact is that it is because Dr. Kapchan, Trump knows what's at stake. He expected his tariffs announcement to have some impact on India. There's been no impact. There's been a huge cut in goods and service tax here in India, which is a huge stimulus to the Indian consumer economy. Our GDP numbers have actually been raised, and there has been no factor of massive impact on the Indian economy. So 1 minute. No. So 1 minute. India has basically, Dr. Kapchan, circumvented all this highbrow talk of crushing India's economy with tariffs. They have had absolutely no impact, and there are recent market announcements. There are recent assessments that India is going to be a $30 trillion economy in purchasing power parity terms by 2038. So I think the power balance.
Everyone knows.
The power balance.
Everyone knows nobody can crush the Indian economy.
But India was called the laundromat. India was called the laundromat for the Kremlin and other such great things by people in the Trump cabinet. Dr. Kapchan, will people like Navarro, will his advisors also pipe down?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we're witnessing here is both sides taking a deep breath, hitting the pause button. But there is a lot of hard work to do if there is going to be a breakthrough. And that's because neither side appears to be in a position in which they're going to make significant concessions. In fact, it's worth pointing out that this week there is a delegation from the European Union here talking about the next wave of sanctions, and Trump has asked Europe to impose 100% tariffs on China and India for buying Russian oil. And so I think we're in a position in which so far the call for a recalibration of the relationship is largely performative. It's largely rhetorical, and we just don't know whether there will be a way forward. And I would also point out, yes, it may be true that Trump has a good friendship, a good personal relationship with Modi, but don't count on that. Because if there's one thing that characterizes the behavior of President Trump, it is unpredictability. It is inconstancy. One day he's the best friends with Vladimir Putin, and the next day he's criticizing him. One day he loves Kim Jong-un, and the next day he's talking about fire and fury. There is no policy process here in the United States. There is no churn of the agencies that pass up recommendations to the president, and he then says, this is what we're going to do. He makes decisions on the spur of the moment. He changes his mind regularly, and that's just the world that we're going to be in. And as a consequence, it makes it very difficult for a country like India, or anybody else for that matter, to respond in a structured and in a purposeful way. It's a topsy-turvy world.
I would say, Charles, I would say, Charles, before I go to Saurabh again, is that I think it's very, very generous, very nice of Prime Minister Modi to be responding so cordially to the tweets, and it's nice of President Trump to send those tweets out. I think somewhere, and I want the inside track from the White House from Saurabh on this, that somewhere Washington is leaving the door open, and India is also leaving the door open, saying the doors are not closed. We're happy to talk to you if you talk with respect, if you talk with reason, timelines and trust. But it's not going to be bullying. But I think what's happened last 15 days is somewhere the door's been opened on both sides. Will it end up with Trump visiting India for Quad in November? Is that still possible, Saurabh?
Arnab, I like the phrase of door being open. I would say certainly. And, going by what Charles was saying earlier as well, India is actually now prepared for this whole unpredictability premise when it works with President Trump. So we know exactly what's going to happen, and we are factoring. This is what I was saying, that we have to do some unconventional diplomacy here. And I would say that in the coming days, yes, it will be critical for us to make sure that the brass tacks happen. We actually ink this smaller agreement that we've been working on. And yes, the larger agreement can be worked out when he visits India for Quad. That's definitely on the cards. The date exactly has not been agreed upon, but yes, it seems that the visit will happen, and you will see there will be some ups and downs. There are people, and I'll tell you, going back to my earlier statement about the negotiating tactics, what people are telling me that as part of a deliberate ploy, what he has done is that he has people in his orbit, the outer orbit, who deliberately make these statements to put pressure on the other side. In India's case, certainly this was hurtful. This was conveyed by the Indian side that this obviously is not how you treat a good friend. That message has gone back loud and clear, which was a very good thing because, obviously they were also trying to test India's patience on this issue. And when Prime Minister said that whatever happens, he will not compromise on his national interests, if you recall his speech where he said he may have to, suffer a personal loss, that was indicated that even if you are a great friend, but if it comes or forces our hand to cross our red lines, we'll not do that. So that message has gone back to Washington, and it realizes that there is merit in meeting halfway house. For even on the oil thing, I can tell you behind closed doors, we have conveyed to the US that if you offer us a better price than what any other country is doing, India is happy to take the oil from the US, but it cannot be at the cost of Indian consumer, Indian people who cannot be expected to bear the brunt if India were to give away buying, cheaper oil. And let me say it, when India decided to buy it, it was with the clear and complicit knowledge of the US administration. US has been buying a lot of goods from, of course, Russia, which is coming out. So I think that message of clear deliverables, clear red lines has gone on well, and White House seems to have understood as this door opened.
My own sense is that there will be some kind of an interim trade arrangement, not a full trade deal between India and the US. My second prediction is that it will happen when Donald Trump visits India in November, and reality will dawn. There will be no full FTA. There will be a partial trade deal and a sort of practical business as usual approach, not the old warmth or attempted or artificial warmth, but an attempt to try and see how far we can walk the road together. That's India's practical approach on this. By the way, Saurabh, India was Ukraine's top diesel supplier in July last month.
Yes.
We were the biggest suppliers of diesel to Ukraine, so Zelensky should reconsider what he says when he talks about us not taking Russian oil. It's Russian oil that he's getting via India. I thank you very much. That was a very interesting conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, on the other side, we saw some incredible visuals from Mandya, where there were attacks on Hindu Ganesh Chaturthi processions. The important thing is the kind of show of strength that we saw as a counter has never been seen before. Post Dharmasthala, post the Ganesh Chaturthi, attack on the Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations, the show of unity in Mandya has been observed across the country.
Time for a quick breather. Arnab will be